Long time no see, right? Well, yeah. It has certainly been a while. Yeah. I'm sure a lot of you will say, "Oh, you're a rookie." Um, well, growing up, I sure find out that life gets in the way of a lot of things I want to do, and well, I haven't ripped these down like I wanted to, but did end up selling the bumper off of this guy. And the new owner is very happy with it because it was a superb bumper. It was absolutely rust free. There wasn't any freckle or anything on it. It was just absolutely mint. It was a little dirty, but on the rainy day, you wipe it off with your hand, and it keeps raining, and boy, it sure looked pretty. So that had went on to a happy home, and he wasn't too sure on how to reassemble it or how to remove it, so that's why I ended up removing it from the car. But I'm going to show you guys how to do it. So this is an 86. You want to get technical, it's an 85 and a half. But for all intensive purposes, this is an 86 to 80. But 80 again, there's 85 and a half, and those are completely different. Those use a full wraparound plastic bumper. It doesn't use metal or anything, but it's a plastic bumper cover, and the taillights and everything are completely different than what's on these cars that I have. But in regards to these cars, there's only a few bumpers here. And like I said, we'll only be looking at the Escort ones, not the EXPs or the Escort GTs, just the good old chrome steel bumper Escorts. Like I said, 80, 86 to 87 for sure, and 88. Please don't get confused with this 88 and a half nonsense. Just call those 89s. I beg of you. But anyhow, yeah, getting the bumper off, it ain't too bad on this 86. No, I should flat out say, right away that they do vary some. This bumper is from like an L, maybe a GL, but they're more or less the same. My wagon's a GL, as you can see it says GL, and it's got the rubber insert. Now if you have a rubber strip on your chrome bumper, that's going to be different than the ones that are just only chrome and have absolutely no rubber guard on them. There will be a difference in how you remove and reassemble that, and they're not directly compatible. Those are a few things I have to make totally clear, because until recently I did not know. But I've seen the different shock absorber mounts for the bumpers. These are one style, and then the 85 and older cars, they have their own style. The EXPs have their own styles, and the Escort GTs might be the same as the EXPs. It's hard to say, but of course they vary front to rear. The front of one will usually be different than the rear of that same exact car. But anyhow, yeah, you can kind of see the big difference here. These are horizontal, and those are more vertical. But, well, how do you go about this? Well, for 86 to 88, on the base cars, you'll have just this. There will be 4 bolts. I actually have them on hand so I can show you. There'll be 4 bolts, and they'll all have 10mm heads. But this might vary factory to factory. Whoever assembles these, they might use larger bolts, because in all honesty, these have small heads for how much meat there is in the threads. Because like, I'm pretty sure for the EXPs, they're either 10s, 11s, or 13s. And on here, you can see that they actually use carriage bolts inside these bumpers, and then nuts on the back side. That's how these ones with the rubber or plastic inserts work. underneath this plastic or rubber cover. It's kind of a hybrid. It's a pulley blend thing, but right about here is where you'd see 2 carriage bolts. If I were to remove this black piece, you'd see 2 carriage bolts. On some cars they're welded. You know, there's a variety. But then on the back side they just secure them with nuts onto your bumper shock absorber. But on these base model cars, the cars that do not have any molding on the bumper, all they have are those 10mm screws that I showed you that come in from the back. And they do use all 4. You know, they have 4 bolt holes. They do use all 4. On these other ones, you see they only use 2. Because if they were to use the other 2, you can see that there is a gap under here. So you can't really pinch that down. But then also on the other side, you know, down where those other 2 bolt holes are, there's no facade covering it up to make it look pretty. So they only use the 2 on each side. So it's really easy to get to and get off. But probably where you want to start your focus with these is first getting the bumper corners off. These are going to be the black wraparound bumper molds or stretchable skins, whatever you'd like to call them. So I have one here with all the hardware. I'm just going to gather it up real quick. Luckily you don't need too much. Everything I'm doing here I did with a simple tool set, so you can too. But this is the wraparound plastic bumper molding thing, and you see this one's heavily distorted, but does the same thing. It just wraps around, makes the bumper look pretty. And then when the bumper is pressed in, these, you can see they're shaped like an accordion because that's what they do. They're able to stretch in and out just fine. Woohoo! Drop the camera. Can't see it too well, and as they get older they get stiffer, but they do stretch in and out and are very flexible. But how you get those out are, this one is the left side, so we'll just hang it up on the left side so you all can better see what I'm talking about here. But this is how it is on the car. You can see there's one plastic pop tab there, and I hold another one in my hand. It's from the bottom side, so you have to pry that up, you know, one on the top, and then that's what the hole in the bottom is for. There's one on the bottom. And then once you do that, you have to remove this from the rest of the car, if you can. Otherwise, it's going to be kind of difficult, but you can. I have to take this off to show you. That's how difficult it is. But here, you can see that they have a pedestal mounted in this bumper, and what they have casted into it are 2 studs. Now mine broke, and it's more or less a rust-free car, and they still broke. Now, if you use heat, you might be a little bit more lucky, but you know, you gotta be very careful, because once you start using a lot of heat, you will distort this plastic thing very fast. But mine snapped off. Expect yours to do the same thing. I'm sure there's some sort of fix for this. In the worst case scenario, you could weld the studs back on there and you'd be set to go. But how these work are they are screwed into the bumper like these are. You can see these have 2 studs sticking out of them. But even though these bumpers are the same general shape, they take different bumper covers. That one is more like what I hold in my hand, you know, where it's just got the 2 in the center of the recessed section of the bumper. So it's just got 2 there in the middle. That's what those are. Someone had ripped off the plastic wraparound molding, but the studs remained, as you can see there. but I believe they're size 11, 12, maybe 13. Yeah, it looks like they're 11s here, but usually need a deep ball to get on them. But once you remove those, and remove your 2 pop tabs, and then once you've removed all either 1, 2, 3, 4, or 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 of your bumper bolts, this thing will just fall on down to the ground. And then reassembly is just opposites, nothing crazy special. And it is kind of easy. The ones that have studs going through them, they're easier to mount. These kind of style where the bolt goes into the bumper, those might take a second set of hands to install. And then these guys, once you've separated them from the bumper, all that's left is this stud here. It goes into the body of the car. And then over here, you just have 2 little Phillips screws. You can see that one underneath my big bolt. It's just 2 Phillips screws that hold this into the fender well. And then this guy, that stud, will have like a 11, maybe 13 millimeter nut inside the body. Once you remove all the the rearmost plastic panels, you can fit your hand in there without having to remove the big plastic panels inside the car. So once you undo the stud, the 2 screws, the 2 pop tabs, and then the two nuts, this guy simply falls right out onto the floor. And that's about it. So it pretty much covers everything I wanted to mention. If you guys have any questions about doing this process, just let me know. It's not too difficult. And should I get other cars with the slightly different bumper wraparounds, I'll make videos on it, but don't expect it of me, because I only got these 2 Escorts because I knew I'd be able to use most of them to save EXPs. These are only parts cars for me. So yeah, I probably won't be getting any more Escorts, but you never know. I'd love to have a Escort SS or a GT, the GT Turbo, or the Lynx RS, or a wagon. Man, I'd love a Woody wagon. But we all want what we can't have. I have plenty of EXPs in that. That makes me an extremely happy person. So yes, we'll stop here and we'll check in with you guys later.